Israel says it's bombed more than a dozen Hezbollah targets in Beirut on Thursday, even as G7 nations urged against an uncontrolled cycle of escalation in the Middle East. The Associated Press says Israeli forces also warned people to evacuate more communities in southern Lebanon, a signal it may widen its ground operation. Meanwhile, the region is bracing for Israel's response to Iran's missile barrage earlier this week. President Biden fueled a bit of uncertainty on Thursday when asked if the U.S. would support attacks on Iranian oil facilities.
Do you support Israel striking Iran's oil facilities, sir?
We're in discussion of that. I think that would be a little anyway.
For more, let's bring in Bloomberg's UAE bureau chief, Donna Khraiche, and also Bloomberg's Dan Williams, who is in Jerusalem for us. So, Donna, let's just start with you. I mean, what did you make of those comments from President Biden yesterday? A lot of reaction in the market in particular.
Morning. Yes, we saw oil surging yesterday on these comments by President Joe Biden and about what would come next, what we are expecting from Israel. And the question was really straightforward. Would the U.S. support an attack on oil facilities there? And he said, we're discussing that. That alone is very concerning. And this is suggesting that the targeting any energy infrastructure is actually on the table, and that's what the U.S. probably and Israel are talking about. He did the day before say no to any attack on nuclear facilities, so it remains to be seen, and this is going to cause a lot more uncertainty until Israel strikes, and this is why this may cause or stir Iran into a heavier response yet again on Israel. It could target oil tankers in the sea. It could also, and that's probably the worst case scenario, close down a very vital waterway, which is the Strait of Hormuz. And that could also send oil prices even higher and fuel more uncertainty about the spiraling conflict in the Middle East.
Right, and really where it goes next. Dan, can you jump in here? Because Donna was just saying the targeting is perhaps on the table, but the timing is unclear, and that's really seeming where the jitters are coming from. There appears to be a delay in the response. I mean, any thoughts on why that might be?
Good morning. Yes, well, as Donna noted, the very least that we can take away from those comments by President Biden is that the U.S. and Israel are discussing this. So we know there is a degree of U.S. collaboration here, U.S. assistance, presumably a degree of U.S. constraint on Israel as well, certainly given the comments about not striking Iran's nuclear facilities. So one imagines the sides are hashing this out while realizing that the more time passes between the provocation for this retaliation taking place, perhaps the less credibility it would have in terms of reestablishing deterrence vis-a-vis Iran. It's also worth remembering that Israel is in the middle of a 3-day Jewish holiday, a time at which the civil service shuts down and the government doesn't really make public comments. So it could also be that there is really a degree of public closure while the Israelis discuss it, and it's simply not being shared beyond the small discussion rooms at the various highest levels of government.
Donna, happening at the same time is what is playing out in Lebanon, and we saw more escalating violence happen on Thursday. I mean, what more can you tell us about the situation there on the ground?
So in South Lebanon, we have been seeing what Hezbollah is saying. There are clashes between Israeli troops there and Hezbollah fighters. And this is going, as we've seen, it's going to be difficult for Israel to push ahead with this, more difficult than perhaps Gaza, because, you know, with Hezbollah, this is the bread and butter of these groups. It is to fight these guerrilla warfare. It is to fight asymmetrical warfare in those southern Lebanon terrains. And we saw yesterday the Israeli army asking more people in more villages to evacuate, kind of widening that area where that has to be empty. And of course, last night we saw local media saying 10 very heavy strikes hit the Beirut southern suburbs. That's, of course, where Hezbollah enjoys strong presence. And usually when the strikes are that heavy, we suspect there is an attack or targeting, at least, of some high-ranking Hezbollah commanders there. There are rumors that going on about targeting the head of the Executive Council, Hashem Safieddine, who is the likely successor of Hassan Nasrallah, who was killed last week. And of course, in Lebanon on the ground, this is turning into a catastrophe, right? 1.2 million people have been displaced. Damage is very heavy in areas in South Lebanon, in the Beirut southern suburbs, and of course in the Bekaa Valley, and that's pushing people away from these areas and really a burden on a government who really has little to offer there. They're relying on aid organizations. They've asked for about $400 million to help with any support for these communities that have been evacuated. So we're looking at more devastation as this doesn't seem to be abating anytime soon.
And Dan, just finally, I mean, you and Donna have laid out really a lot of the different factors that could potentially determine what happens next in the Middle East. What do you think will be key, though, in the next few days to pay close attention to?
Well, I think Israel's made very clear its war goals. And I think almost a year into this war, the Israelis and the Israeli public will not want to hold fire until they see tangible achievements. Now, that means in Lebanon, for example, a capitulation of some kind by Hezbollah, be it declared, be it de facto. As Dana noted, southern Lebanon is tactically very tricky for the Israelis, unlike Gaza, when they went in on the ground some 11 months ago. The topography there is difficult. It's densely forested. It's been heavily emplaced by Hezbollah, and the Israelis have already taken losses in the first hours and 2 days of this ground push. So the real question is, which side gives first? It would appear from all the mood music in Israel, from the polling, that the Israelis are willing to take this to the end, even at a high price of blood. The big question is how Hezbollah's hold in Lebanon will continue, and whether Hezbollah fighters in the south, even if they lose their leadership, their central leadership in Beirut, would be willing at a more local level to continue the fight to hold off the Israelis.